All right, so we're joined all the way out from Pelahatchie by my friend Brandy Littrell, transportation driver for the Southern area railroad drivers. We thank you so much for taking some time for us. We're in the transportation career cluster. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much because with what you're about to tell us how you're on the road, we appreciate you making some time for us today.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be here.
All right, so you're originally from Forest, went to Forest High School, and after high school, you did for a short time go to college. So talk about that decision to go to college and then your decision to kind of step away.
Well, I originally went to college because I had scholarships. I was very good at metal trades. Like, I got my pretty much my entire college paid for the first 4 years, and I went to East Central Community College for drafting and design. I did not like college, but I also did not like school to begin with. So I don't know why I thought college would be any different, but it wasn't, and I hated it. After completing my first year, I was like, I wanted to do something completely different because I wanted something that didn't involve having to go to college and sit behind a desk for several years of my life.
So then you pivoted and you started doing something else. So take us through what you did on that because you fell in a couple of fields that you can make good money in, but don't necessarily need a degree for.
Correct. I was already in fast food because I had to work while I was in school, which is probably part of the reason why I hated school so much. But so I worked at Wendy's. I was a manager at Wendy's for several years, 12 to be exact. And so I stayed in management for a while, and you don't have to have college for that, and you can make a fairly good living despite what you see on TV about everybody protesting making $15 an hour. You can actually make more than that as a manager. And then I just wanted something that didn't involve being on my feet all the time. So that's when I pivoted over to insurance, and I was in, which I still have my insurance license to fall back on in the event that I ever want to go back to it, because you just renew it every other year. You do a continued education for that, and you stay in, and you can stay in insurance. But I was in that for 8 years, and I loved insurance. And COVID kind of hit, and I lost my job from that. And so I had always done Uber, as Greg can tell you. Me and him Uber together. And so I was doing the Uber thing while I was looking for another insurance job, and I got shot and had to rethink all of my life choices.
Wait,
So
wait, but hold on. Tell us how many times you were shot.
I was shot 7 times. It was an Uber passenger, 17-year-old kid, ruined his whole life to carjack me, rob me, kidnap me, and shoot me 7 times. I'm very fortunate. Like, none of the bullets did any damage. One come a hair from my spine, but I am not paralyzed. I walk just fine, and I'm alive today to be able to like tell everybody that I survived it. And it's a very wild story that I'm pretty sure I don't have enough time to tell the whole story, but
Did lead to you getting to go to Hollywood and go on Dr. Phil. So you got a trip to Hollywood out of it, which was is a small consolation, but it was still pretty cool for you to get to go because you were always a fan of the show as well.
exactly. And
Now, after that, you've got into this field you're in now, which I think is a great way for some of these kids that want to start working immediately after high school to make some really good money.
oh, absolutely, because I work on the just the driving transportation side of the railroad for the entire Jackson, well, pretty much southeast area. Um, but you can go into being a railroader, like a conductor, straight out of high school. And there are people who do it. I transport guys and women all the time that come straight from school, 18, 19, 20 years old. And once you've served 30 years with the railroad, you earn full retirement benefits. And by full retirement benefits, I mean whatever your check is for your highest paid 5 years, that's what you retire with.
Wow.
And yeah, and the starting out salary for a railroader is six figures. So you start off making six figures a year, while it just goes up from there the longer you're with the railroad, because you periodically get more money, and um you get overtime. And so
Wow.
the more you work, the more you build up that retirement nest egg that you can, live on for the rest of your life. And in addition to that, when you retire, half of your salary, like you get your whole salary, but then you get another half for your spouse. So
Wow.
your spouse also has half of the retirement plus whatever it is that she does for a living. And so after you serve 30 years, if you come straight out of high school with it, you'll be between 38 and 40.
Wow.
No, that was 48 and 48 and 50, and you can still go and do a whole nother job and earn a whole nother, because there are plenty of railroaders that went into like firefighting for straight out of high school, worked 10, 15 years as a firefighter, got the retirement from firefighting, and then went into railroading, spent 30 years on the railroad, and they have two retirement checks.
Wow. Unbelievable. Now, but I think it's something interesting because we have a lot of kids that are interested in the transportation cluster because it's not going anywhere, whether it's trucking, shipping, railroading, or what you do in transport. But there's some things I think people need to understand if they want to get into transportation of any sort. First of all, this is probably the most transfer drug tested career on the planet. Whether it's you, whether it's the people on the railroad, whether it's the truck drivers, they are always subject to drug testing. So talk about that because it can be very, very serious when it comes to drug use in this cluster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you get drug tested with every single one of those careers, because you're like literally responsible for people, whether you're on the road, whether if you decide to do transportation on the water, transportation on the rails, you are responsible for people, whether you have anyone with you or not. For instance, the railroad, if you're transporting cargo, a lot of the materials are hazardous materials. So if you derail a train and cause a serious spill, then you're endangering the lives of everybody in that town. As you like, if you watched the news, you saw that happened in Ohio, like that huge train derailment that caused several of thousands of people to have to be evacuated because of the danger level to their health. And anytime you derail a train, it's an automatic drug test. And if you fail a drug test or you derailed a train and put people's lives in danger, that's a federal offense. Like, backed by federal prison.
Yeah. So, and that's not to scare anybody, but that's to understand before you even get the job, you're subject to very stringent drug testing, and and you included. Because then the other thing about this is you got to be have time management. You got to get places on time. You've got to get places on time. You can't have people waiting for you. If a load has to get from New Orleans to Chicago by a certain amount of time, the train person can't say, "Well, the weather's bad. I got to slow down." You can't say, "Guys, it's raining. I can't come get you." So talk about the time management when it comes to transportation because people pay good money to have things shipped. People pay good money to get places. So on top of the drug testing, the time management skills in this cluster are paramount. So talk about how important that is.
Oh, absolutely. I joke, when we all joke with the railroad when we say our goal is to hurry up and wait. So we always have to hurry up to get somewhere, and then usually have to wait. Like, we have to wait on another train to get there. If I'm swapping the crew out on their train, or if I have to go and get the crew somewhere, they're still having to get orders from their train master. Like, it's always it's always a waiting game with the railroad, but you have to hurry up and get there, and they have to know that you're there for when they're ready to get things going.
Absolutely. And the thing is, um, when you're on the train, you don't have to be an expert on what you're hauling, but you've got to, even though a lot of it is just open rail, you've got to be trained and an expert on anything that could and might happen on a train. So talk about some of the things that the trained people have to learn, and it's things they can learn while they're working.
Oh, absolutely. And the railroad has all three railroads that I work with have amazing training. So like Union Pacific sends you to Nebraska, Kansas City Southern sends you to Kansas City. Um Canadian National Railroad sends you to Illinois, and you go through like a 6 week training program. And then that's not even all the training you get, because then when you get on the job, you get additional training, and you're in training for another 6 months before they put you
Wow.
by yourself doing something. So I mean, you have to learn how to do, like, oh the if any of the connectors to the train pops off, you got to know how to put those back on. If if one of the brakes stick, you have to know how to do that. Now they call them diesel doctors, which they have them for the big trucks as well. But for the train, they also call them diesel doctors that can come out and help you if you can't get something working. But those are highly specialized people that they do have to go to college for several years to know how to do. But you have your basic knowledge that if anything happens, that you still have to be able to get that train going, because like you said, somebody's expecting that load somewhere.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the students' questions, I just think it's interesting what you do, because it comes from just a love of being on the road, a love of driving, a love of meeting people. So there's other companies that need transporters, and if someone, I always say I got my love of the road from my grandfather, who drove a Greyhound bus all over the continent with his church group. So if you're a person that you don't want to be an 18-wheeler driver, but you enjoy being on the road, you enjoy getting to talk to people, this could be a great area to get into, because transporters are becoming more and more important for companies like the railroad.
Oh, absolutely. Because I love to drive. I've always loved to drive, but I can't drive like off road from, one side of the United States to the other, because I care for my grandmother. So I
Right.
can't be just too far away. And so doing this job is perfect, because I'm like within a 3 to 4 hour stretch of my house. So I can always get home within 4 hours and not be just too far away. And but I've always loved driving, and I did Uber as literally a hobby. Like, it started off as a hobby for something to do with my extra time because I was bored.
Same. And it just turned into a lifestyle. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. And I love this first one. This is Anaya Goins. She's in ninth grade. And she was like, "What was it like to meet Dr. Fields? He as nice as he looks."
He is absolutely as nice as he looks, and he absolutely has that same personality that you get on TV, where he has a no nonsense attitude. He absolutely has that towards stupidity. I love him. He's like amazing.
I like this one. This is Karen Queen. She's in 10th grade, one of our volleyball players. And she asked, "What are some dangerous things that could be faced by someone working on the railroad?"
Well, if you didn't know, the railroad is primarily in, like, a very dangerous area. Like, most railroads are in very high crime areas. So, out of everything in the world that they have to deal with, getting shot at is probably number one, especially with like Canadian National Railroad in Jackson. It's on Mill Street. And I sit on the yard and wait on crew all the time, and I hear gunshots.
Wow. I like this one. This is Chandra Black. She's in ninth grade, and she asked, "What is the farthest you have to go in your area?"
The furthest I go from my house is North Little Rock, Arkansas. It takes me 4 hours and 15 minutes to get home.
Wow, that's it. I thought I was longer than that. Cool.
No, it's really
Um,
better.
I like I like this one. This is it's Rakai. I always say his name wrong. Rakai Body. He's in 10th grade, and he asked, "How long does training take to work on the railroad?"
My training only took a day because I just drive. But the railroaders, their training starts off at 6 weeks. Is You have to go out of state for 6 weeks for training, and then you're on the job training for 6 months before they put you by yourself.
Yeah, I like this one. This is Ethan Cook. He's in 9th grade, and he asked, "How many people do you transport a day?"
Well, each trip, I generally, a crew has like between 2 and 4 people. So I usually only transport 2 to 4 people per trip. And if I work multiple trips, then, of course, I have multiple people. And then when they swap out with each other, I have the crew coming off the train, which is usually another 2 to 4 people. So roughly 10 to 15 people a day.
Wow. All right, so I got time for two more. This is Levon Johnson. He's in 10th grade, and he asked, "What is the most common mistake that you see train operators make?"
Not setting the switches correctly. Like
Ooh.
I've watched the train derail in the CN yard in Jackson because they thought that the switch where the train, because like the train comes to a V and there's a switch that either sends the train this way or it sends the train this way. And I've seen them set it wrong and derail the train in the yard.
Dang. Next time that happens, please get a video. I would love to see that.
I
I
wasn't
got time for one more.
expecting it.
This is Kyria Chambers. She's in 9th grade. And she asked, "What was your biggest motivation to begin working for the railroad?"
Money. Like I needed money and I was literally trying to get out of doing Uber full time because like I said, I had just been shot and I was rethinking all my life decisions, and so I wanted to do something that I could get paid good money for and not actually put myself in as much danger as Ubering.
Well, but I think it's important to know that you do still not as much, but you do still Uber, and I
Yeah.
think that is such a great story because you know obviously you did, and we're almost out of time, so I'm wrapping up here. But I just wanted to mention this because um, you know all of these kids that are here with me, all the kids that I see this later, they're gonna face tragedies in life. You're gonna face obstacles. We have some that have already dealt with some things that are just unspeakable, but it's the resilience that you have as a young person that really defines who you are. The resilience you faced, because most people, I don't know if most people remember, while you were in the hospital, I was interviewed about your story by WAPT. And I talked about some of the things that you were going to face, but also what a resilient person you are. And I think it's important for everybody to understand whether you want to work as an Uber driver or not, whether you want to work in transportation or not. As these kids get out of high school, they're gonna face hardships, they're gonna face tragedies, they're gonna face obstacles. But it's how you face that as a person that really defines who you are, and you've done such a great job of that. So as these kids get ready to get out of high school and start making decisions, what are some ways that they can be prepared to face those obstacles that are going to happen in their life?
Well, I mean, there's really no blueprint to telling people how to deal with, getting shot at or getting shot. But I mean, you just have to have a positive outlook on things. And so if something bad happens to you, try to stay away from the mindset of like, oh my God, this happened. It's the end of the world. And more so like, okay, this happened. How do I deal with it? And how do I move on? And a lot of it you may just end up having to go through therapy for to, get over.
That's
But
fine, and that's fine. Yeah.
but yeah, there's
Now
nothing wrong with it.
the last thing before we go, if kids are interested in working for the railroad, how do they apply? Who they need to talk to?
Well, I know the CN process is you just go to cn.ca, which is it's Canadian Railroad, so they have all the job listings and everywhere, and the qualifications for them. But I mean, like I said, being a conductor, you can be hired right out of high school, and I've seen people do it.
Wow, that's incredible. It's such a great field. Well, I know you want to get back to rest because you have a crazy schedule. We thank you so much for joining us. Brandy Littrell, my friend, transportation expert, the transport driver for the railroad. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Bye.